Howdy, howdy, folks. Once again, this is Donnie coming at you with yet another Linux security report on this, the final day of June 2017. And here at the register, we have a story called Don't Panic, but Linux Systemd can be owned by an evil DNS query. Ooh, Systemd, yeah. Anyway, Systemd, which is an init software which replaces the old sysvinit and upstart init systems, can be potentially crashed or hijacked by malicious DNS servers. So patches are available though, so don't panic too much. Patches are available to address the security flaw and should be installed as soon as possible if you're affected. Now, the good thing about it is that not all Systemd distros are affected. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But anyway, the way it works is that looking up a host name from a vulnerable Systemd-powered PC, handheld, or server can be enough to trigger an attack by an evil DNS service. And basically, this is a classic buffer overflow problem because a specially crafted DNS response can fool the Systemd resolver into allocating too little memory for a lookup response. And then when that large response is received, the data will overflow the buffer and it will allow the attacker to overwrite memory. And when we overwrite memory, we can either crash the machine or we can do a remote code execution attack. So this means that this remote evil DNS service can run malware on your machine, or can potentially run malware on your machine once this buffer overflow problem is triggered. So this malicious DNS server can exploit this by responding with a specially crafted TCP payload to trick Systemd resolved into allocating a buffer that's too small and subsequently write arbitrary data on the end of it, explained Chris Coulson of Ubuntu maker Canonical, who discovered the out-of-bounds write in Systemd resolved. And this was accidentally introduced in Systemd version 2.2.3 in June 2015 and is present all the way up to and including version 2.3.3, which was introduced in March of this year. So this means that it is present in Ubuntu version 17.04 and 17.10. Apparently, if you're running the last long-term support version of Ubuntu, which is 16.04, you don't have to worry about it. It's apparently not in there, although I haven't checked. But they have put out fixes for both of these two Ubuntu versions to address the flaw. And the bug is technically present in Debian Stretch, which is Debian 9, which is just introduced, and also Buster, the Debian 10, and the SID, which is the unstable branch of Debian. But the Systemd resolved is not enabled by default in Debian, so you don't really have to worry about that, okay, with Debian. So other Linux distros use Systemd as well, and you want to check whether or not there are updates available and ready to install for your version of Systemd resolved. And of course, we all know how to do that. Just use your regular package management utilities and run whatever command that you need to run to check for your updates. And also, just as a little footnote here, this Ariel Zelevonsky guy found some security bugs in Alpine Linux's package manager. Okay, so if you're running Alpine Linux, well, that has nothing to do with this DNS security flaw, but still, if you're running Alpine Linux, I don't know of anybody who does personally, but if you are running it, be sure to check for updates there as well. But anyway, this screenshot here is from a CentOS 7 system, and CentOS 7, of course, is based on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which was introduced back in 2014. So it actually came out a year before this flaw was introduced. So you see here that we're running version 2.19 of Systemd, so we don't have to worry about the flaw here if you're running Red Hat Enterprise or anything derived from Red Hat Enterprise, you don't have to worry about it, okay? You never had the flaw to begin with, because I don't remember when it was, but there was at some point after this that the Resolve D was introduced into Systemd. So prior to that, on these older versions of Systemd, the DNS resolver was just the plain old DNS resolver, the same old plain DNS resolver that you've always used. So Systemd had nothing to do with it. So it was at some point after this, after 2014 apparently, that the Resolve D was introduced into Systemd. Okay, so I know already that I'm going to get a bunch of comments from the Systemd haters, because every time I do a video about Systemd, even if it's just a tutorial video, I get comments from the Systemd haters telling me that, hey, you need to quit using any Linux distro that uses Systemd. Now, if you want to use a non-Systemd distro for your own personal use, hey, that's your own business. I won't try to stop you. Even if you have a small business, your own business, you run your own servers, you want to use some Linux distro that does not use Systemd, that's fine with me. I don't care, okay? But the thing is, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, SUSE, and Ubuntu are the big three Linux distros in the enterprise market. All three of them use Systemd. So if you want a job as an enterprise IT administrator, you're most likely going to have to use Systemd whether you like it or not. Okay? And it's something I've been emphasizing for a long time, and it seems like I'm just not getting through to anybody. I still get people, they watch those videos where I make this point, and they still tell me, no, you need to quit using any distro that uses Systemd. No, that's not a practical solution, okay? We have no choice. If you want to be a Linux administrator, and let's say that you're already a Linux administrator who's out of work, but you don't like Systemd, so you want to go hunt for a job as a Linux administrator. So most likely, okay, Red Hat is the biggest one out there, okay? So probably you're going to be getting a job at a place that runs Red Hat. So when you apply for the job, I tell you what you do now. When you apply for the job there, you tell your prospective boss that you refuse to take that job until he switches all of his servers to Slackware so that you won't have to deal with Systemd. Well, I hope you like flipping hamburgers, because that's probably what you're going to end up doing. And besides, these big three enterprise distros have security features that most other distros don't have. Ubuntu and SUSE have App Armor. Red Hat has SE Linux, so both of these security features can help prevent attackers from exploiting this Systemd flaw, as well as other flaws that might come up. Hey, you remember the shell shock bug that was in the bash shell that could also allow attackers to perform remote code execution attacks? Well, on your Red Hat systems, you know, that was a complete non-issue, because people could still break in, right? But they weren't able to actually exploit that flaw to be able to do anything. So your SE Linux prevented that flaw from being exploited. And in fact, most of the distros don't even come with a pre-configured firewall. Now, Red Hat does, and I believe that SUSE Enterprise does too. I'm not completely sure of that off the top of my head. Ubuntu does not come with a pre-configured firewall, but it does have a very, very easy to use, uncomplicated firewall utility. So by switching your organization to a non-Systemd distro, you could be making your security situation worse, because you're giving up these cool security features. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it here for this one. And I know I had to go on a rant, folks. I'm sorry, but I just keep trying to get across to the Systemd haters. Okay? You know, I got nothing against y'all. If you hate Systemd, that's your own business. I'm not going to slam you for it, but I'm just trying to tell you that your solution for us all to switch over to non-systemd distros, it's not going to work, because if you want to work in the enterprise, or anybody who wants to work in an enterprise as a Linux administrator is going to have no choice, okay? That's something that's completely beyond our control. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for now. And if you like the video, be sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and we will see you next time.